23,000 miles of double centuries and much more, all with asthma and a bad hip. On today's episode, we'll learn how Kirsten Walker has managed to overcome the obstacles in her life to pursue her passion of riding ultras for so many years. Kirsten has ridden everything from the 1,200-kilometer Paris-Brest-Paris to the Silver State 508, Leadville Mountain Bike Race, Dirty Kanza, Death Ride, and many more. Don't let anything stop you. I'm your host, Justin Tu. Let's roll. Hey, Ultra family, Justin Tu here, your host of the Ultra Cycling Show. Thanks for tuning in to today's special episode where we'll be chatting with Kirsten Walker, a very strong female ultra cyclist that I've personally ridden with a lot through the years in the double century series of events here in California. In fact, we started around the same time in 2010, yet she has far surpassed me and completed 115 double centuries in addition to many other accomplishments. So a great privilege and a great deal of fun, I'm sure it will be. Kirsten, thanks for joining me on the show today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you out here in California, not just because of the pandemic, but because I don't know how long ago it's been now, but you actually moved to the East Coast of America, right?
Yeah, we've been out here for just a little over 2 years.
Geez, it's been 2 years already. Time flies. But I
Yeah.
know you've been very busy bicycling out there as well. I always see it on Strava and still doing very long rides. And I must say, I really like your t-shirt you're wearing from Terrible 2, one of the tougher double centuries here in California, in the Santa Rosa, Northern California area.
Terrible 2 is always one of my favorites.
Well, what about it? The extreme heat, the steep climbs?
I think overall, just the toughness of it all.
Yeah. Definitely tough and also beautiful, especially once you get to Highway 1 near towards the back end. Really nice.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, Kirsten, before we dive into everything and just to look at your whole career as an ultra cyclist, figure out more about you, training, nutrition, racing, I'd love to start with a quick sprint round of questions. Just a series of questions to get to know you in a nutshell. You can answer in a few sentences. Just a fun way to get to know you. First question, Kirsten. How long have you even been riding bicycles?
So I've been riding bikes for 27 years.
Wow. All right. Explains a lot. And
started on the mountain bike. So right out the gate, and a year later I was racing cross country.
Oh, wow.
Kind of the short mountain bike races in the Bay Area.
Right. And I do have a lot of awesome photos here that you sent, and I'm looking forward to going over them in more detail. Of course, we see here, we have some really nice banners. Congratulations on your 100th double. This was at the Carmel Valley Double Century here in California. What year? 2018, it looks like. Yep.
Yeah, 2018.
I was actually riding that year. I think, was it that year? You actually passed me towards the back end, right? And I was riding with Jason.
So you were having some heat issues.
Yeah, that was a tough one. But wow, look at you, looking fresh there. It looks like you could do another 100 double centuries. And of course, a lot of other awesome photos. You were just talking about mountain biking. See some nice photos there. Also, a lot of road cycling. You've done a lot of brevets as well. You've done PBP. That was 2019. Yeah. A lot of people are familiar with that on the show. And so you actually started with mountain biking. I'm curious to know, do you feel quite comfortable then going down technical descents? Are you pretty speedy and a speed demon going down?
I love to descend. I hold a lot of the queen of the mountains in the Bay Area. Down the steeper, the more technical, the faster, the better I
am. That's awesome. That's so cool. Okay, so getting back to the sprint round of questions now, looking forward to diving into all of that further. How long have you been an ultra cyclist? Is it since 2010, or were you doing some ultra distances with mountain biking as well?
With the mountain biking, 1999 was my first 100-mile mountain bike race. My first century was on dirt. I don't know if I'd call myself an ultra cyclist then, but I would say more so around 2010 when I was doing more 200s on a regular basis.
Right. Yeah. And again, we started about the same time, but you just got the double century fever and couldn't stop showing up. Now,
they actually get easier because the more you do, the better shape you're in.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I know through the years, well, both of us actually improved our fitness quite a lot. And I know you got very, very fit and fast as well. So it was great to see that. Now I'm curious though, Kirsten, do you enjoy mountain biking or road biking more?
About the same. I like, maybe I like road biking a little bit more, maybe 65% of the time, because of my asthma, I can generally keep the breathing in check. Whereas the mountain bike is so much shifting and it's on and off, and it's a little bit harder on the breathing.
That's right. For folks to know, you've accomplished a lot, but at the same time, with a very good case, as you put it, of asthma, and you've had that. I know there were many times I vividly remember at Alta Alpina, the 8-pass challenge, that at lunchtime, I remember you were suffering a little bit, but you still were able to get up and get going before me. And I remember seeing you climbing up one of the passes while I was starting to descend. Just goes to show the mental fortitude that you have, even in spite of that asthma.
Yeah, I've learned a lot about myself through the years of all this ultra stuff. With the breathing and tough at times, but you just like you say, my mental game, I just keep pushing. I'm always pushing.
Yeah, very inspirational, not just for female cyclists, but honestly, all of us. I know I found a lot of inspiration and motivation from watching you accomplish everything that you have. Now, Kirsten, how many bicycles do you own?
Well, because I have do more than just road biking. I have 12 bikes.
Holy, that's a nice collection. Now, are they all stored in the garage, or do you have a special room for them? I mean, 12 bikes is a lot to keep.
With the new house out here, I actually have in the basement. There's a nice little place I call my corral, and it has. I have a bunch of photos, and it's all set up pretty nicely. So
cool. Do you do your indoor training there?
No, I do that up in another room in the house.
Okay. Wow. So you have a corral and you also have a pain cave.
Yes.
Nice. Now, which of those 12 bikes is your favorite one?
My favorite one, I guess it would be my fairly new Parley RZ7 road bike. It's a carbon fiber with all the bells and whistles.
Cool. That's
so
nice.
It rolls really nice.
Yeah, very interesting. I've not heard of that brand myself, but I'm sure it must be a very nice ride if you think so.
Yeah, a couple of my French friends, Alexi and Gilles, that ride the doubles. They've had their Parley for years, and then when it came to buy a new bike out here, it turns out Parley is just maybe a 40-minute drive from my house.
Wow.
And so I was like, I think I'll buy a bike from Massachusetts. This is great.
Well, glad that worked out. That's cool. Glad you could join that Parley club. Do you ride that bicycle the most now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And how about in terms of a bicycle computer? Are you using a Garmin, a Wahoo, another brand?
I switched over years ago to the Wahoo Element, right? I guess maybe in the first year they came out with them. I just had so many issues with the Garmin, and I've never looked back with the Wahoo.
Yeah, cool. I've been hearing that a lot on the show. Probably almost half of the guests on the show so far have said they've tried Wahoo or they're currently using it, and in fact myself as well. And I wouldn't say I necessarily had any issues with Garmin, although I mean there are some here and there, but I thought I'd give it a shot, and I was actually quite happy with it. So glad to hear you were one of the early adopters there.
Yeah, I don't my computer doesn't freeze up.
Yeah,
I don't lose my data, and my map, my route never gets me lost. So I'm real happy with it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, very important, especially for ultra cycling when you're doing very long distances and doing some grueling events. Okay, when it comes to racing or just training, do you worry about power or heart rate or anything like that?
I have a power meter on most of my bikes, but really, I tend not to use it because it takes my power, because of my breathing. It takes about 3 hours for me to have consistent power, and so the number just keeps flopping around. I can't really get a good idea, so I've kind of just gone by the way I feel, probably for the last 2 years.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, and another dynamic that's important to highlight there with your asthma, and perhaps others who are watching now are actually in the same situation with asthma or something similar, and it's incredible that it takes you so long to warm up. And I know I've heard you say that on a number of occasions before the start of a double century, and typically you have to start the double century a bit slower, easier to warm up. But then, of course, as you warm up, you start catching up with people, right?
Yeah, I generally would start probably, I would probably be the last 10 riders if there's 200 riders, I'd be the last 10 or 15 riders. And then after about 100 miles, I've pretty much caught all the women except for the elite women, someone like Lori. And, but other than that, yeah, it takes me about 100 miles to catch the women.
Geez, that's quite a race then. I guess every single one you're doing is quite exhilarating, trying to catch up with everyone. And yeah, you did mention Lori. We had her episode 19, Lori Hecklin, a strong rider also in her own right.
Yeah.
But I know you've also done quite well, not just in terms of number of ultra events, but also in your positions in a variety of events. I know in mountain biking and road cycling. But now I'm curious, for all of your riding, you've done a lot for many years now. What are your favorite snacks while you're riding?
Since 2012, I've pretty much been doing a liquid diet, and it's worked out real well for me.
What brand of product do you enjoy using, or has it changed through the years?
So I would say for the first 4 years, I used Infinite.
Oh yeah.
And then for whatever reason, my stomach was kind of telling me, "Oh, don't put that in my system anymore."
Huh.
And I switched over to Tailwind. And I've been real happy with it. Works for me. It works for a 18-hour ride, up to 18 hours.
Interesting.
And then I need some solid food.
Yeah, I'm sure many can relate. Actually, it's true. It is difficult to just do the liquid nutrition. It is efficient and easy, and goes down quick. But at some point, having some solid is important. But yeah, both of those brands actually, different guests have used both Tailwind and Infinite Nutrition. So good to know you've had experience with both. Now, after a long ride, like a double century or even Paris-Brest-Paris, what's your favorite post-ride meal that you enjoy having?
Nothing is better than a nice, good old cheeseburger with French fries. And you got to have that chocolate milkshake.
Oh,
it is so good.
That sounds delicious. That's why I always enjoy the Camino Real double century. the finish line and right across the street from, or right in the same parking lot as the restaurant, and we get that free meal courtesy of Planet Ultra.
Yes.
Man, I always enjoy getting a good old cheeseburger.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you like just regular fries, or do you like curly fries? Do you like garlic fries?
Just regular fries. So if I eat French fries, which I don't eat very often, non-race event, I avoid all the salt. And after a bike ride, I love that salt on those French fries.
Yeah, definitely. Couldn't agree more. I know when I first started the double centuries around the same time as you, 2010, couldn't wait to get to the last or one of the last rest stops to have a cup of noodle or something, pickle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when was your last race and how long was it?
So I did my last double. I think I did it August 19th.
Okay, which one was that?
So I rode the virtual Carmel Valley.
Ah, yeah.
So I started from my house and I rode out 100 miles west. And that was one of the most difficult ones I've had because of my hip. It was so bad. I think at times I was riding up 7% grade and I had to traverse because my whole right side, I had no power left.
Wow.
And I struggled. My ride time was, I think it was 16 hours.
Wow. Geez, that's a real
that's a long time for me. I was out there for 17 and a half hours.
Yeah.
And I was determined to finish it.
Yeah, and you did. And so was that 115?
Yes.
Nice. Well, big congratulations on that. And that's right. We were just chatting before the show. You actually just recently had a full hip replacement. Tell me more about that.
So I also have a passion of roller skating indoors. I've been skating for 35 years. And I had an injury 5 years ago in 2015, which I kind of rested maybe probably not long enough. I always thought it was muscular. And so I've kind of just let it, I just always keep moving my body and skating. And in this last 2 years, things definitely started to change. And finally got it looked at last year.
Wow. Okay. And then how long ago was it that you had that surgery?
So I had the surgery 34 days ago. So just a little over a month.
And is the recovery going well?
I went to the post-op appointment 2 days ago, and the doctor gave me the A-OK to get on my indoor trainer with no resistance.
Oh, I see.
And so I did my first 20-minute ride today, and I was so happy.
Geez, I can imagine. Wow. Oh, glad that is going well. Glad it's taken care of. Geez, I can't imagine what you're going to do once you're fully recovered now with a new hip. That's exciting. But,
I'm looking forward to getting back on the mountain bike because I really put off the mountain biking because there's just so much, there's so much movement with the body. And then, of course, if you crashing always happens I take most of my crashes mountain biking. And so, yeah, I look forward to get back to mountain biking.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see you out there. And I can't believe that over the last 5 years since the injury, you've done so much, not just all the double centuries. You've also done Paris-Brest-Paris and a variety of other events. And I know it just took you 9 years to get to 100 double centuries. So I'd imagine at least half, probably, if not more, was just in the last 5 years, right? And so you were riding a lot with a bad hip. That's incredible. Definitely inspirational. Well done, Kirsten.
Thanks. I'm telling you, just getting that leg over the saddle was half the problem, half the battle. But it seemed like not having there's no weight on the hip. I seemed to be okay. There was times I'd be 100 miles into a ride and I'd start having some pretty good pain in the hip, and maybe 30 minutes later it would subside, and so I was good to go.
Wow. Yeah, that puts things in perspective. While others have trouble simply, getting to the starting line, geez, even once you get there, you have trouble getting on your bike. But I guess that's different now. So glad you're taken care of, and hope you can be back out racing soon. And well, I guess with the pandemic, it'll be a lot of virtual, but perhaps you can get out on the mountain bike and have some fun there. Now, Kirsten, on the subject of terrain, what do you prefer more? Do you prefer the climbs, the descents? You said you enjoy descending, the rollers, or the flats?
I love to climb. So yeah, definitely climbing.
Okay.
I can, I don't know, I always like to get to the top of things, and
Cool.
with my breathing, I can kind of adjust. If I know a climb is say 8%, I can kind of I can set my pace and really I feel so good climbing.
That's cool. Yeah. Always nice to meet another fellow enthusiast of climbs. Now, you also enjoy going downhill, and you're very good with it. Do you know what your max speed down a hill has been through the years?
Okay, so on dirt, it's 46 miles an hour.
Nice.
And on the road I was on a 600K up in New York this 2 years ago, and I had some packs, I had some weight on me on the bike, but I hit 57 miles an hour.
Oh, wow. Geez, that must have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, generally I can only hit 54 with my body weight, but having an extra probably 12 pounds on me helped out a bit.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's really cool. I always struggle with that issue too, because I'm so light. I'm usually only around 136 to 140 pounds. So whenever I get to the descents, it's always a struggle for me to keep up. But that's cool. So over 90 kilometers per hour for those folks outside of the U.S. So that's a very nice speed, and glad that you enjoy those and are comfortable with the descending. Now, how about in terms of season? What do you enjoy riding through? The fall, the winter, spring, or summertime?
Definitely summertime.
Oh, okay, so you like the heat.
Bring on the heat. The warmer the better for me. When it's cold, it's a little bit difficult to breathe and open up.
That makes sense.
And so when it's a bit warmer, I tend to feel better sooner, I guess, on the ride. I'd say like on 200.
Okay. Okay, so you've learned. Have you just learned to enjoy the heat because of the asthma, or even in spite of the asthma, you just prefer the heat as well?
I enjoy the heat. I've always enjoyed the heat.
Okay, so the Borrego Double Century then is probably well suited to you, and many others like that. Terrible too, of course. Those ones get pretty hot.
Yeah, it seems like when everyone's like keeling over and sitting by the trees, I'm like having the ride of my life going up the hill, and I can't get enough.
That's cool. Okay, now what time of day do you prefer riding? Like in the morning time, afternoon, for training?
I'm a midday rider.
Oh, you are? Okay. Oh, that's unique. I think one of the few. Of course, many people, just for perhaps logistical reasons, and others tend to enjoy the morning, sometimes the evenings after work. Okay, last two questions here in the sprint round. Do you think ultra cycling requires more physical or mental training?
Definitely mental training.
Okay. And I'm sure you've got a lot of that through the years, so definitely know what you're talking about. And through all the years, you've done a lot of events. What's your favorite?
My favorite event probably be the Leadville Trail 100 mountain bike race.
Okay. What about it that you enjoy the most?
I think because it's really tough for me because it's at 10,000 feet. Because it's so tough, because on top of it being a tough ride, it's got my asthma. And the camaraderie with all the, it's like a big Leadville family out there, and everyone's cheering everyone else on. It's just, it's like, it's in my DNA now.
That's cool. Yes, I'm sure many of the other rides that you do as well. I mean, 115 double centuries. That is a lot for people who perhaps aren't sure what that means. Even just doing one double century is a lot and a lifetime in itself. And to keep coming back year after year. And of course, the double centuries, we have many of them in California. It's unique here in this state. And of course, they're not all in the same location. California is a big state. And so you're having to drive around all over the place from Northern California to Southern California in order to show up for the starting line. So Kirsten, how did you even get introduced to ultra cycling? What event, drew you, or was there a person there that was, motivating you or holding your hand and telling you, hey, maybe you should come join me on it?
I would say at the bike shop, the shop I used to go to, he was a one man shop, and I would tell him about my mountain biking, and he would tell me about doing the Davis double. He would do this 200-mile ride, and I kind of was like, ooh, that would be neat to do that someday. And so I finally put that into place in 2010, and I went for it.
Cool. And you said the Davis double?
Yes. So Davis double was my first double.
Oh, cool. That's nice. Yeah, my alma mater. Go Aggies.
Oh.
Davis. Yeah, but strange enough, that wasn't my first double. It probably should have been, but actually my first was the Bass Lake double century, starting out there in the Clovis, Fresno area of California. And I think Davis might have been number 4 or 5. Also gets very hot there in the afternoon after the lunch.
Yes, my very first double, I remember coming into the fire station. I think that's around mile 165, I want to say. And I had hot foot for the first time.
Oh,
and it was so awesome because I look around and they had these 2 kiddie pools with water, and I was like, man, my feet just dove right into that pool. I'm like, I can't believe they have a kiddie pool for me. Woohoo!
Yeah, that's cool, man. During the hot days, definitely helps to soak your feet. Even in the Race Across America, when you get to what used to be the Bull Shifters rest stop just before one of the famous climbs, hopping in there, man, makes a big difference. Oh, very interesting to learn. So I'm curious, you've done so many rides. Have you ever DNF'd or not completed one of the rides, perhaps in the early days, or maybe because of your asthma or something like that?
Yes. In 2012, I wanted to take on the hillier doubles, and I went out to do the Terrible 2 in 2012. And there was a gal that I met on my first double. And so we kept in contact, and I remember telling her, I said, I want to do the Terrible 2. I signed up, and about 2 weeks before the event, she says, it's going to be 115 degrees out there. I was like, I'm already signed up. I'm going to do it, It turned out to be about, I think at the Cloverdale at the lunch stop. I think it was 110 degrees that day. And I didn't even make it to the lunch stop. I barely made it up the geysers, and the SAG vehicle came up and says, well, you're not going to make it to the lunch cutoff. So yeah, the bike went on the car, and there I was.
It's tough when things like that happen, but glad you were able to bounce back from that. And of course, you have completed 115 doubles now. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I made sure that I was prepared the following year for the Terrible 2. Yeah. I did extra climbing. I wouldn't say I was in the best. I was in double shape, but I wasn't in the hill climbing shape.
Yeah,
So
there's
I
a lot.
went on, I think I did the next, five, I think I did 5 Terrible 2s in a row.
Wow.
And
That's an awesome achievement in itself. Terrible 2 is one of the most difficult double centuries out here in California. For those who aren't familiar, they should come check that one out if you ever want a good challenge and a beautiful course. But there's a lot you learn from the experience, whether you finish or you don't finish a ride. And of course, that happens to the best of us. And it's only those rare few that have never DNF before. But there's a lot of hard lessons to learn. And that's the thing, even with, on the show, we talk a lot about all kinds of ultra events, even like ones that you've done, like Paris-Brest-Paris, and multi-day things with sleep deprivation and all these things. But even a 200-mile ride is not a small feat in itself. And every course is so different. The conditions, just like other rides, multi-day ones, they vary. And, you're starting early in the morning and you could take 10, 15 hours, even some perhaps 20 hours. And so a lot changes through that time. And so it's something that I appreciate because, of course, I've done over 50 of them as well as a Hall of Famer there. And man, even after doing so many, sometimes you make a little mistake and you end up paying for it.
yeah, it's amazing how you think you're so experienced and you still make mistakes.
Yeah. And actually, we were talking about that earlier. It reminds me of that, your 100th Carmel Valley double century. I'm sure that was probably close to my 50th. And man, well, I think mostly from lack of training. But, you were talking about having mental strength as an ultra cyclist. And I think one of the problems was around that time, several years ago, I still had the mental strength and training from the previous years and doing the Race Across America and other events like that. But because of my life situation, focusing on career, starting a family and all of that, I didn't quite have the physical training there. And so I was pushing just like I was just as fit as I was a couple of years ago. Of course, paid the price, once the heat starts kicking in, when you're redlining, essentially. I was riding with Jason Perez, another guest that we had on the show, and of course he was very fit at the time, and we were hauling down the roads for the first 100 miles and feeling good. But then at one point the physical aspects do catch up.
Yeah, he was nice. He stayed with you the whole time.
Yep. That was a memorable ride.
Yeah,
Well,
I really enjoyed getting on your wheel and peeling off those miles. I was like, woohoo! I'm riding with the big boys now.
yeah, no, that was actually fun. A good motivation. Well, probably more for me than Jason at that time, because I was in a very difficult situation. But glad we were both able to make it, and glad you were able to celebrate your 100th double at that point. So you've done a lot.
Thank you.
What else do you have on your bucket list of ultra events that you would like to do in your lifetime?
I want to do the Tour Divide. I don't know if you're familiar with the Tour Divide.
Mm-hmm.
It's a self-supported, you carry all your gear with you, mountain bike race, starting in Banff, Canada, to the border of Mexico.
Right. Yeah, that's right. It goes through, well, I guess it's in the name, kind of. It goes through the Great Divide, the bike route there through the Rocky Mountains, which splits the whole continent. Yeah, so that's a very grueling race, and that's mountain biking.
Yeah, so it's 2,700 and like 2,745 of the mile. It's a long ride. I would probably plan for it to be about 30 days for me.
Wow.
The fastest, I think the fastest men's time is 15, 16 days.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds like a definite adventure. I'm sure it must be very remote in many parts of that route, right?
Yeah, when you're going through Montana, you have, the bear country. So that's one thing that will concern me is the bears.
Yeah, geez, I guess you'll need some bear spray. Now, will you do that solo, or will you do it with, another friend or two or something like that?
Knowing myself, I would do it solo.
Wow. Okay. Now, do you think that's going to happen in the next 5 years?
I probably will do the transcontinental first, the self-supported road ride across the United States.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Trans Am.
Is a Trans Am. So I'll probably, with the hip, it kind of set me back. I wanted to do that one next year. And so, 2 or 3 years. And then the following year will be the Tour Divide.
Okay, yeah. No, that'll be cool. We'll have to have you back on the show when you're doing that. Those are two of the very difficult, I suppose you could call them bike packing ultra events. And you definitely need a lot of experience to do those solo and self-supported. And so it sounds like you definitely have all of that experience now under your belt with 115 doubles and many other accomplishments, which you did send me some, and I'd like to share that also with people who aren't familiar. And some of the things I wasn't even, aware of myself. But you did do the Silver State 508, which is very popular with people all around the world. You did that in a two-person team. And as you mentioned earlier, you've done the Leadville Mountain Bike 100-mile race. You've done 14 of those. And so I've not done that. I'm not a huge mountain biker myself. But so you earned 10 buckles, and that means you finished that race in under 12 hours. That's what it is, right?
Yes. So they give you a buckle if you finish they give you a silver buckle under 12, and you get a gold and silver buckle under 9 hours for the super fast riders.
Yeah.
But just getting under 12 is what you're aiming for.
Right.
And can I show you a buckle?
Oh, yeah. We'd love to see that.
Okay. So this is what you get.
Nice. Yeah, that is so cool. Hold it up a little bit more. There, yeah, there we go. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Gee, so you have 10 of those.
I have 10 of these. Yeah, it took a while. I had a couple of years of DNFing because of my asthma.
Oh, wow.
And, so it was really difficult.
I can
And
imagine.
it seemed like once I got in, when I was really fast on the doubles.
Yeah.
2017 was my fastest year at Leadville. I seemed to be like in extra good shape. So maybe, my asthma was still there, but it didn't take me out of the race. And let me show you my 10-year buckle. This one will take up the whole screen.
Nice. Wow.
And it has my name on it.
1,000 miles Kirsten mountain bike race. Oh, that is so cool. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Sure.
I'm sure not many people can say they have one of those. Very cool, Kirsten. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
But I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. But in addition to everything else you've done, of course, you are in the 100 double centuries Hall of Fame, and well over that. I'd imagine in your lifetime you'll get to 200 probably. And you've also done the High Cascade 100-mile mountain bike race. You've done that one twice. That's in Bend, Oregon. And you've even placed second out of 11 in the 50-plus age category. So not only are you doing the ultra distances, but again, you're riding very fast. And even in the double centuries, I know through especially the last probably 50 doubles that you did, you were riding very competitively. You've also done the Dirty Kanza. That's a 200-mile gravel grinder. You've done that 3 times. Very cool. And you've placed 12th out of 200 overall for women, 4th out of 45 in the age category that you were in. And of course, you've done Paris-Brest-Paris, which is a very long 1,200 kilometer ride. You've also done 4 600 kilometer randonniers. So you've done a lot of the self-supported riding. And so it sounds like you are primed both in speed and the self-sufficiency to do something like Trans Am or the Tour Divide. So that's pretty cool. Now also,
yeah, I'm working on my nutrition. I can't stick with the liquid for more than a day or two. I've got to somehow mix in the solids, which was hard for me at Paris-Brest-Paris because I not being in the United States, you're not sure what kind of food, it's different food that they have. And, I definitely had some lows and lows. I had a hard time because I couldn't drink my drink. I couldn't get my calories, but, and I survived. I plan to redeem myself in 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always tricky, and like they say, you got to have a plan to not use your plan, and things happen, and then you have to think quick, and it does add another dynamic being in a different country in France and not being accustomed to the same kinds of foods. Oh, what did you end up trying? Was there anything that worked for you out there?
So the chocolate croissants were just amazing.
Sounds delicious.
I wish I found more bakeries. I generally was eating at the controls, which that was a mistake because you spend, you can spend 15, 30 minutes just in line for the food. And that's just time wasted. So I definitely going to be looking out for more bakeries. So, what else did I eat? I need to eat some more. I need more protein.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what I was eating. They had some great potatoes with what did they have? They had the best potatoes. My mother's French, so every time I ate something that was really good, it was like, oh, this reminds me of my mother's food.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. That's really awesome to learn. And, totally reminds me about, in the double centuries, I always love at different rest stops. It tends to be towards the end where you'll have those nice potatoes and just put a lot of salt on there. Enjoy those. Always quite tasty. But yeah, that is one of the things. Even when you're doing a double century or supported ride where there are rest stops and those kinds of things, I mean, they only have what they have, and so everybody takes in the food differently, and so you do have to figure out the nutrition strategy even on a double century race. And so I'm sure you've had to deal with that a lot through all the years. And as you plan to do some of these other long rides like the Trans Am and the Tour Divide, I guess you'll be doing a lot of experimenting, like you just said. So has there been anything that you've tried recently that has been working?
Not really. I did do a 1200K this year out in Colorado. It was the ride was canceled, but I had a friend support me. And I still had issues trying to eat solid food. Yeah, so the first day, of course, liquid, the tailwind, 200 miles, piece of cake. And then the second day, now I've got to switch over, and it's just hard to eat. It's just hard to get, I need to take in, I'm taking in about 220 calories per hour. It's just hard to get that in the body.
Yeah, geez. Well, I'm sure, everyone else watching can relate, including myself. One of the difficult things of multi-day riding, it's not just that you're riding more, but there's all these other elements that you have to face, both in the terrain, the weather conditions as they change from day to day and from morning to evening. But then your body starts kind of messing with you, and geez, who would have think it'd be so difficult to eat something, especially even something that you might enjoy. I remember going through Arizona, to 110, 115 degrees. And I thought, oh, solid food, I'll eat, Subway sandwiches. After a while, I couldn't find a Subway. So just found whatever nice nearby Mexican restaurant there was, have a nice big burrito. In normal times, I could devour that and enjoy that. But man, when it's hot, when you're tired or you've eaten a lot of calories, you're quite saturated. It's difficult even just to chew the darn thing, let alone swallow it.
Exactly.
Now, so Kirsten, when it comes to training, what does that look like for you? Are you doing a lot of training indoors, or do you prefer riding outside?
So when I was living in California, I hadn't been on an indoor trainer for 10 years. Being out here on the East Coast, definitely, the early months I'm indoors, pretty much the first 3 months. But generally, I like to train outdoors.
Right, right. Now, this year with the pandemic, I'm wondering, have you done any like Zwift riding, any races, indoors, things like that?
No racing on the Zwift. I just can't put any power out for so many hours. It's pointless.
Yeah.
I'm a snail. People that follow me, they look and say, "Wow, you ride so slow during the week." Well, just in general.
Uh,
So, well, my 13 miles an hour. That's what I do the first hour or 2 hours, and then
right.
and then all of a sudden I can get the watts over 200. But generally I just can't get moving. No, I just spin. I've never raced on Zwift. Just spinning.
Hmm. Yeah, but it is very inspiring, as I was talking about earlier, that even with asthma, where, some may use that as an excuse, or, after, I don't know, one double century or 10 double century or 50 double centuries, you might call it quits, and like you've suffered enough, you've pushed yourself enough, you've been motivated enough, but man, you just keep showing up, Kirsten. And so, I mean,
I love the feeling after 6 hours. I could, all of a sudden I'm a whole nother person after 6 hours on a bike. I can push the pedal. I can just push I can really go fast. And so I think that's what drives me to keep pushing, to keep getting out there and riding.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. That is interesting to hear. Now, a lot of people, I guess we talk about, bicycling as a way for us to like escape, the stresses of life and, work or family or kids and all that kind of thing. But man, that takes it to another level, Who would have thought that even with a physical ailment that riding, well, some people may use it as an excuse to never ride at all, or let alone do a 200-mile ride or Paris-Brest-Paris, but yet and through pushing yourself to see how far you could go, learn that if you push yourself far enough, you actually feel better than you would at any other time not on the bike. That's incredible.
I think just in general, if I ride and at least if I just ride 1 hour a day, it really helps with my breathing overall. Years ago, in the early 2000s, I used to take 3 months off the bike. I would just put the bike away and say, okay, my mountain biking season is over with. And yeah, I definitely had, just walking around, I had difficulties breathing.
Wow.
And so, riding an hour a day really does just, makes me feel much better.
Yeah, I'm sure that's encouraging for others who may have asthma. And I hope that your story can inspire them to keep pushing the pedals. And wow, I mean, you've accomplished so much and through so many years. It wasn't just some coincidence, but it's just that consistency. And as you said, perhaps, just showing up all the time. And, I guess you have to adjust your mindset and kind of your pacing strategy and all those kinds of things. And I'm sure that must weigh on you sometimes. Why don't you speak a little bit about that? Like when you get in a ride, we've touched on it earlier, you have to kind of start at a snail's pace. Everyone's going ahead, honking and hollering, having fun, and you're, you're kind of suffering. How have you trained your mind through so many years to accept that, just keep your head down, ride your ride, let your body warm up? What does that look like for you?
So when I'm by myself, take in the flowers and the scenery, no problem. In races, yeah, it's a bit frustrating. It's like, wow, I can't believe I can't go. I just want to go forward. I can't move. Yeah, I just have to wait for the green arrow, for the green flag to come up. I'm always in this checkered flag for the first couple hours, and yeah, I've just dealt with that. I'm just used to it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you've been able to find a way to make it work for you. I think that's one of the keys in riding, especially ultras, whether it's nutrition or training or, different obstacles that you face, such as your asthma. And Kirsten, I'm looking at a very nice photo of you here. I see some snow on the mountains and other riders there. What event was this?
So that was the Death Ride. I think that was 2012.
Right.
So I did 10 in a row of the Death Rides. until I kind of do tens of things. And so my husband was out there with the camera and got a great picture of me. This is coming down the bottom part of Carson Pass.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, very nice photo. For those who don't know, yeah, the Death Ride, 5 of the passes, there is a double century. There's actually 8 of the passes. Alta Alpina, you've done that as well. But for many cyclists, non-ultras especially, they'll be familiar with the Death Ride out here in California. Well, actually, let's see. It starts in Markleeville. That's in actually Nevada, right? And is actually most of it in Nevada, or is it in California?
No, it's in California.
Oh, okay. Okay. I think I'm just getting confused because I think when I've done Alta Alpina, I've always crossed the state line and I've stayed somewhere several miles away. But actually, the ride is in California. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I know you've also done Everesting 4 times, and that's been very popular this year, especially during the pandemic. And in 2015, you rode 1 million feet of climbing that year. So as you were talking about earlier, you do enjoy climbing. I'm curious, for the Everesting, which one was the most challenging or the funnest one, or which local climb were you doing?
So it's a 5.2 mile climb. It was just under 2,400 feet.
Ah.
And so I had to do that 12 and a half times.
Wow.
I'm thinking, okay, 12 and a half times, it's not going to be too bad. The averaged 7-8% grade, which wasn't bad. It was pretty much perfect. It was the downhill that killed me.
Oh.
The road was a bit rough, and descending for over 5 miles, my whole body would just shut down. Of course, then you got to climb back up and warm back up again. The last 3 descents, my hands got so numb. And then the fog started rolling in. I was out there for 20 hours.
Holy cow.
So it was, I don't remember the name of the road. So yeah, the downhill is what killed me. And my fingers were numb for 3 months afterwards.
Oh my goodness. What an adventure.
Yeah.
So what you thought was not going to be too bad actually ended up being a very, very grueling day. And I guess that is a theme of ultra cycling, as we were discussing earlier. You never know what can happen, no matter how much experience you have, or what it may look like on the.
I think the easiest double, well, not the easiest ever, the best ever rush ever was a 1 mile segment of Bonnie Doon Road, and it averaged about 7%, 7-8%, and it was just a 1 mile segment. So, I was only going uphill for 15 minutes, and then descending, and I was up almost 45 miles an hour descending down, and I finished that one in just a little over 16 hours.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, so it is important to select the route that you do and factor in those details. And who would think, you'd think you just do a short little climb and descend and do it a few times and it's all done and you're good to go. But I guess you have learned.
Yeah, obviously the steep, when it's over 10%, that's not. I'm not a super duper fast climber. So when it's over 10% grade, it's it's not suitable for me to climb that thing 29,000 feet.
Right.
So yeah, picking the right incline and the distance, and when the road is smooth, of course, it makes it even easier. So.
Yeah, and Kirsten, I'm looking at a nice photo here of you. Why don't you tell me a bit about this one?
So that was finishing. That was after the Dirty Kanza. I really had just a top-notch race. I did have a flat tire, and I have tubeless tires on that cross bike. So I think I spent maybe 45 seconds putting air in the rear tire.
Wow.
And that was it. Other than that, I just had an incredible race.
Yeah.
And that was just a little over 13 hours for 200 miles, 206 miles, and it took me a little over 13 hours.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds like a good ride. And I see that you did get pretty dirty there.
Yeah. That race was pretty dry. I mean, there's some mud you go through, or typically early on in the low line areas. But yeah, it's pretty dusty. I had my, you see, I have my little my neck gaiter on. So the mountain bike races, if I don't have that neck gaiter on early on, I might as well just call the race. I just call the race. I just quit.
Wow. Incredible. Interesting. So you've done a lot of races and a lot of events, Kirsten. I'm just curious to learn a bit about, your routine for getting ready for one, whether it's the days leading up to it or, the day of the event. Do you have any kind of regular process that you've developed through the years that you like going through, making sure you take care of some things so that way you feel good and ready when you get to the starting line?
Like for a mountain bike race, it's like if for a 100-mile mountain bike race, I generally, the last day I do any kind of pushes on a Monday, for 2 hours, and then I'll spend Wednesday, Thursday, and then I typically take Friday off. I won't even get on the bike. For a road, for a 200, I take it easy during the week. Typically the same thing, I guess, the same pattern, just easy 1 hour rides.
Right. And how about after a ride? Are you recovering pretty quickly? Do you take a few days off, or do you ride the day after?
So I used to try to ride the day after, thinking, oh, I need to get on that bike, and it didn't do it. It didn't help me out. I'm typically pretty swollen up my legs after a 200, and I literally gained about 5 pounds in weight because I'm so swollen.
Wow.
With my whole body is just so swollen up. I don't know if I think it's all the liquid I'm intaking. And so I'm holding on to all that liquid until my body is ready to, finally recover, and then it, lets go of that.
Interesting. Have you found then that just resting for a few days to recover is the way to go, or something that there's an improvement for your races?
Yeah, I basically, I won't ride. I'll take 2 days off now. Sometimes I'll ride the second day, but typically 2 days off.
Okay.
And then of course I feel a lot better.
Yeah.
And when I was doing the doubles back to back, I did 6 weeks in a row. I basically would just ride an hour Tuesday, an hour Thursday, and then back racing on Saturday. And I was
nice.
full board.
Yeah, and we were talking about that earlier, that the nice thing is during the season, after you've done all your preseason riding, got your base miles and everything, you can kind of just surf your fitness from one double century to the next, because there's so many out here in California. You could just go from week to week. But it is important to emphasize to folks who aren't familiar that, doing a double century from 1 week to another and week after week is a big challenge in itself. And being able to recover enough so that way you feel well the next week is very important also. So well done there. And of course, that's how you were able to do so many double centuries in such a short amount of time. How many double centuries did you do, or what year, or how many double centuries did you do the most in a single year?
It was either 2000, I think 16 or 17. I did 20.
Incredible. Wow. Yeah. That's really impressive. That pretty much translates to a double century almost every week during the season.
Yeah. I always found the third, if I do like a, solvang, typically the ones with not as much climbing, I could do 2 of the fairly easy ones. And then the third week, I am just I have power. I have so much power to give. It's just amazing how I feel. Typically on that third double, the third in a row, and then the fourth one is a little bit slower. I feel like, okay,
Yeah.
you need to rest
imagine.
now.
Right. Yeah, a lot of miles, and you're riding hard as well. Kirsten, I'm looking at a fun photo here of you. Tell me about this one.
Yes, that's so that was I that was the start of the DK, the Dirty Kanza 350-mile gravel race.
Ah.
So I'm not sure what sponsor was out there, but they had this couch out there. Of course, I got to get a picture in the middle of the race.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's
That race, I had a hard. They give you 36 hours to finish, and I was 9 miles from the finish and had a mechanical, fixed that, and then I crashed. I ended up a minute later when I got back on the bike, I crashed over the bars, I
Oh, no.
don't know how I high-sided the rut, and then I crashed, and then my front derailleur broke, and
Oh my goodness.
I thought I had it in the bag. I had an hour and 24 minutes to do 9 miles, and it was all flat.
Wow.
So yes, I'm was hoping to come back this year, but next year I'm in for next year to just finish the race.
Yeah, cool. Well, cheering you on, but it sounds like you've experienced almost everything, Kirsten. But yet you
Yeah.
pick your bike up and yourself and you keep going.
I literally, the derailleur was hanging from my frame, and I was literally trying to ride in like a skateboard, pushing off, rolling, pushing off, and my arms were giving out. I'd been on the bike for over 35 hours, and
Wow.
and then it flattened out. I was going 4 miles an hour. I said it's impossible to finish, and so I had to DNF. But
Yeah.
I'll get it.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a difficult one to DNF, but a valiant effort for sure. And I'm sure you'll get it on the next try.
No, thanks.
Now, when it comes to, balancing the rest of your life and also having, your support team, because, riding a lot although you may be riding solo, the rest of your life, people there to support you, friends, family, cheering you on. What does that look like for you?
Well, my husband Kevin is been great. He's just been very supportive. He's not so much one to be like support the ride like your folks have been, but he's always there to say, hey, aren't you going to do another double next weekend?
Huh.
So he's very supportive on my rides, getting me to the event, and so yeah, I'm hoping I can continue as long as I can go.
Yeah, and well, it sounds like there's still a lot ahead of you, even though, geez, behind you, you've already done so much. So, in all your years of experience, you've learned a lot, you've experienced a lot, you've encountered many obstacles. Just in thinking about yourself as an ultra cyclist, the sport, everything that you've been involved with, what are your tips for people wanting to get started with ultra cycling?
I mean, I think the best thing would do is, to join your local bike club, and that's where you end up meeting other riders that, kind of motivate you. They talk about other rides, and, get you moving along and doing the longer distances.
Yeah, always nice to have a group of like-minded people to ride with and to keep motivating you. So that's very important. Glad you also have a very supportive husband. That always helps as well. And it's cool that he always asks you about if you're going to do another double. That's pretty unique. I'm sure he must have a blast seeing you accomplish all that you have. And what are his thoughts? You've done so much. You're definitely an ultra human being and an ultra cyclist. What does he think about all this? I take it that he doesn't ride these ultra distance rides with you?
He does not. He does ride on his indoor trainer for 30 minutes a day. And he's ridden with me on, up to an hour. But no, he's definitely not into the endurance. So I think initially with the randonneuring, because I was riding sometimes through the night, he was a bit worried about me because I'm by myself. And so he's still very worried, that something's going to happen. So, because I kind of had to work that into the schedule, doing a 600K and Paris-Brest-Paris was okay because he got to go to France and he got to enjoy the trip.
Yeah. That's cool. Got to make it fun for everyone. That's cool. And that's why I've always loved the double centuries out here in California. I wish every state had so many, because not only is it a great challenge and great fun as a bicyclist, but just making a weekend trip out of it and visiting very beautiful cities and areas in California. It's you can't really beat that.
Yeah, there's so many places I hadn't been in California, and then the double centuries came along, and it's like, wow, like riding through Joshua Tree National Park, that is just so beautiful.
Oh yeah. One of the fun ones. Also gets hot there, so that's probably why you enjoyed the.
Yeah, I always loved Joshua Tree. That one I always used to ride completely solo because I always wanted to see my improvements through the years. So I would not take a pull. No one's behind me, just completely solo. And, just trying to see, like, am I getting better or am I getting slower?
Yeah.
So.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've learned how to have fun along the way. And I guess that's how you've been able to do so much, because if you don't enjoy it, difficult to keep getting back on the saddle, especially with, asthma, which you've had this whole time, a very bad hip. So glad you've been able to find enjoyment through it and make fun out of every adventure that you have, even when you're just a few miles from the finish line, like at that other event.
Yeah.
Now, Kirsten, aside from just your own, mental strength, your own motivation, have there been other cyclists or, just other people, role models, inspirations for you as an ultra cyclist?
I think one of the first persons that I came across, I remember it was John Clare. He was in the Davis double. Was it the Davis? Yeah, I think it was in the Davis. I think he was riding with Teresa, and he was saying, "Oh, I have this many doubles, within my, all his family members had ridden, his father and his son, and so I was like, I forget how many doubles he had, but I was like, I'm on like my first double, and he has I don't know how many doubles, and so he was such a nice man. I mean, he was definitely inspiration. He always cheered me on. He was such a positive guy.
Yeah. And I'm looking at a photo of you riding with him.
So I generally, I would start the later time, and this was at the Inyo spring double.
Yeah.
And so I was coming up the hill. What's that called? That area called? But it was a climb there. And then I saw John. I said, and I saw Hugh Murphy, the man who puts on the ride, and when he had his camera on him, and I said, it'll be perfect. I'll get behind John. This is after John had come back with some heart issues. So he was just so happy to be on the bike. I said, this will be perfect. John can pull me up the hill. So here we are.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, great ultra cyclist, great friend. Sad that we lost him to a tragic accident a couple years ago already, but he forever lives on, especially in the ultra cycling family and in the double century series of events out here in California. I know I always got a lot of motivation and encouragement whenever I saw him out there on the course. And of course, always nice to grab his wheel, especially on those windy stretches on Highway 1 and others.
Yeah.
So, Kirsten, in closing out here, just wondering, What do you want to be known for as an ultra cyclist? When all is said and done, you've done the Trans Am, you've done Paris-Brest-Paris a number of times, you've done the um, the Tour Divide. What do you want to be known for as an ultra cyclist?
Yeah, I would just tell people, that don't let anything stop you.
Yeah, short and sweet, but so true. Those are definitely wise words. And you've definitely lived that out already. You have many years ahead of you and many events still to do. And
Hmm.
so I'm excited to follow the next 10 years. Can't believe it's already been 10 years since you've done the double centuries in California. And again, around the same time that I started doing the double centuries. And so I can
Right.
only imagine what the next 10 years will hold for you. And we'll be cheering you on and following along on all your crazy
Yeah.
solo adventures that you enjoy doing. But you have the fitness, both physically and mentally. And I just remember just feeling such a great sense of pride in seeing you complete your 100th double several years ago. Now, of course, you've done 115, so 15 extra since then. But I remember it was just such a cool moment because, again, we started the double centuries around the same time. We went through a lot of the same struggles and challenges from course to course, and from one week to the next, we would always see each other there. And it's amazing to
Yeah.
see you, accomplish so much and become so strong. And even in spite of the challenges you've had through your ultra cycling career with asthma, your hip, and many other things, you
The photo you just showed me there, with the 100.
yeah.
So that jersey, my good friend Lane Parker surprised me with that jersey after I received my 10th buckle at Leadville. So I had, let's see, I did the Carmel Valley. No, I think I did my Leadville. He gave me the jersey after Leadville, but I still had to go back. No, I was done with it because I did the Carmel Valley earlier. So he surprised me with that jersey that, the 100 doubles and the 10 Leadvilles. And so that was a really special moment with Lane Parker.
Yeah, that's a very special jersey. Definitely one for a nice frame to put on the wall and for generations to see.
Yeah, I have one. He actually framed. Do you remember Becky Burka?
I'm not familiar. I don't think
She
so.
used to
If I
ride the
saw her face,
fixie.
probably.
She was a super strong. She has over 50 doubles, and
Hmm.
she'd ride. She did the Leadville Mountain on a fixie.
Oh,
One of those crazy riders.
right, right.
She's the one who designed the jersey,
Hmm.
and so yeah, it was.
Yeah, well, definitely very
Yeah, so
special.
I have that. I have that jersey framed and all too.
Oh, cool. Yeah, well deserved, Kirsten. So I'm glad you were able to get that to commemorate all your achievements. Now, just a fun way to end here, Kirsten, a sprint to the finish line. Just a couple short questions. First question I have for you is, how would you rate yourself in terms of bicycle maintenance on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very good?
Oh, I would say I'm probably like a 7 or 8.
Nice. Way to represent. That's awesome. We
I mean,
recently,
on the mountain bike, your bike has to be clean. I mean, you can't go out without cleaning your chain before you go. I mean, it doesn't take much for that bike to screw up on the dirt. And so I think I've just gotten used to it on the road. I think sometimes I overdo it now on cleaning the bike, but
well, good problem to have, I guess. I know
mhm.
a lot of people kind of slacking on that front. So glad all your 12 bicycles get the treatment they deserve. You put them through a lot, so I'm sure they appreciate you. Now, you do already have a lot of bicycles, and you also have that really nice new one. But is there still another dream bicycle out there for you, or are you pretty happy now and you've gotten all that you wanted?
Well, the technology of the mountain bike is always going forward. So I would love to have a new full suspension race bike, which now the full suspensions are getting down there in the weight. If I could 21-pound mountain bike, I'd be very happy with full suspension.
Nice. Yeah. That sounds cool. Well, we'll stay tuned for that. Maybe you'll be able to use that one on your Trans Am race. That'd be cool.
No. Oh, actually, I would use a hardtail on the
Okay.
Tour Divide.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, front suspension, but with a hardtail in the rear.
Right.
So,
Okay, cool. All right, Kirsten, last question I have for you. Who do you want to nominate for a future episode on the show? Is there a story or person that you would just love to learn more about, or you think their story is just worth sharing?
there's a man I met in Leadville, and he's raced, I don't know how many times. He's 87 years old. This man, his name is Fred Schmidt from Texas. I don't know if I could get a hold of him, but I know he's still racing at 87 years old, and he only rides gravel and mountain bikes.
Wow.
I would love to hear from him. That would be just epic.
Yeah. Geez, that would be 87 years old. What do you think, Kirsten? Are you gonna still be riding at 87 years old? By that time, I guess you'd have like 500 doubles.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess, to be fair, there is a final question. How many double centuries are you going to be happy with? I mean, are you going to keep going? Well, is there a number floating around your head?
I'll be happy with 150.
Oh, okay. Okay. Not too bad.
I mean, since I don't live in California anymore, and I'm actually, moving out of state, it actually kind of opened up the variety of rides now, because I think I was kind of just stuck in that 200-mile series. Not exploring new roads. You're always doing the same doubles. So with the randonneuring, it's been really exciting. Last year I went out to the Seattle area and rode, a 400K and a 600K. So I got to see all different areas. And so, yeah, I like really into this randonneuring stuff now. So just doing different stuff.
Yeah. No, really happy to hear that. Of course, we all miss you out here, but glad you're still able to come out, and at least we'll see you for another, I guess, 45 or 35. Let's see, 35 double centuries to make it to 150. So we'll look forward to that. But until then, Kirsten, take care of yourself. I'm glad your hip is recovering so well, and looking forward to seeing your next adventures. Thanks for taking the time to share your story and some of your experiences with us today.
Thank you so much, Justin. It's been a pleasure.
All right, Kirsten, we'll see you next time. And everyone watching at home, hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you got a lot of inspiration and a lot of reason to get up and out on your bike. There's no excuses. Don't let anything stop you or slow you down. I hope Kirsten's story showed you that anything is possible. You just need to keep pushing the pedals forward. And, there's a lot of adventure waiting out there for you. So thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep spinning ultra.